What's the deal with Boob Tube Boys? The deal is we're covering Seinfeld for the next 4 episodes, and we're thrilled about it. As always, I'm Brian Vaughn. That hasn't ever changed. As always, I'm joined by 2 people. This hasn't changed either. One of them is Van Lee.
Which has changed, by the way. Remember? That's not my name.
Well, that part of it's changed, yes.
Your our history, that's your name.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Boys history.
Yeah, well, certainly. And it is my name for real, but not quite.
I mean, legally, is it your name?
I wonder if I could get away with it legally, because all of it is there.
I think you gotta, give them $10 or something.
I think it's more than that, isn't it?
Probably
it's like 150.
Like 100,000. It's either 10 or 100,000.
I really want it to change your name.
The other guy who's kind of inquiring about name changes, that's Spencer Hendricks, who has never changed his name.
Nope, my name is legal. It's legal, and we don't have middle names involved either. So
is it street legal?
I'm just straight up Spencer Hendricks.
Do you have nitrous on the back of it?
I'm thinking I might change my Twitter handle to that, straight up Spencer Hendricks.
No funny business here. Just right to it.
I'm not here to fuck around. This is Spencer Hendricks. Well, as I mentioned, we're discussing Seinfeld beginning with this episode, and while we're going to be getting to individual episodes of the series, as we always do, for this first episode, we're actually going to be doing a bit of an overview of Seinfeld, because we have a lot to discuss, guys. This is a show we're all intimately familiar with, more so than any other show that we've covered. So, time to do a little bit of background. Seinfeld ran from 1989 to 1998, the brainchild of a guy named Jerry Seinfeld, another guy named Larry David, perhaps the best 2 first-name guy ever.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Seems likely.
I mean, he's up there if he's not. So the show ran for 9 seasons, all of them on NBC.
Steven Tyler.
Well, I mean, Steven Tyler's done stuff in elevators I'm not sure that Larry David's done. He's also crazy amazing.
Which one has a bigger net worth?
Ooh, it's probably Larry David. Because,
probably.
I mean, I don't know what the going rate for a good scarf is now, but that's kind of Steven Tyler's budget problem.
But then again, Steven Tyler came from that era of music where you would become filthy rich.
That's not possible.
And he's done it for like decades and decades and decades. So if he has any money ability, he's been amassing wealth like a vampire.
He's done it
since the beginning of time.
And he's also wilting and leathery like a vampire.
He looks like a vampire, yeah.
He has honked on Bobo.
He honked on Bobo.
He's always been here, too. Like, I mean, we've never known a world that didn't have Steven Tyler. It could be that no one has.
There are cave paintings of Steven Tyler. And then it just says what we now believe, based on some sort of we had to do some transcribing. But underneath the cave painting was labeled, pink is his favorite color.
This is not the first time we have devolved into a Steven Tyler discussion. It is on Boob Tube Boys, but it's happened elsewhere, and I just want to bring that up.
Nor will it be the last.
No.
I'm sure it won't
No,
be.
It'll definitely happen again. He never appears in Seinfeld, Steven Tyler, for the record. The show was originally called The Seinfeld Chronicles.
Which sounds like a drama, like a new age, like CW drama.
Which this show reimagined as that would be fascinating.
Sure. George has mystical powers. I could get behind it.
Yeah. There's a lot of dating. That part fits in. The central cast that we've all come to know and love was pretty much intact right away. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was added slightly later as the female lead in the series.
Oh, she wasn't in the pilot, right?
She's not in the pilot. There's a waitress there in her stead that was intended to be the kind of sassy
token
woman.
Female. Good enough. They've got a waitress. They don't need an actual main character female.
Instead, they wound up with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, one of the, I would say, most talented actors of her generation, comedically, certainly.
Yeah. They have those videos on YouTube by, I think, like Variety or something, where they talk to an actor about their career.
Yeah.
And I just watched one with her, and it was fascinating to watch.
I'd love to watch that.
Totally cool, yeah. She talked Seinfeld and, of course, Veep and everything else she's been in.
She is great, and alongside her, obviously, you've got your Jerry Seinfeld playing himself, sort of, basically. You've got Jason Alexander playing George Costanza, who's something of a Larry David fill-in, or stand-in, if you will, and Michael Richards as Kramer, later known as Cosmo Kramer.
That's a great episode.
His first name is finally revealed. And this cast, we'll be mentioning moments specific to the episodes we're covering, but other than Jerry Seinfeld, who was a novice actor coming into this, and primarily a stand-up comedian, the rest of the cast, these are professional level actors who are just fantastic. and they kind of are able to prop him up. The show is very wise about the selection of its guest stars and bit part actors as well. It's a pretty incredibly cast show all around, and that shines through pretty early. I was really, really surprised to know that this show's level of success, while it's always there, it won 10 Emmys. All of the actors virtually won some sort of award for their work on this, except for Jerry, I believe, but he took home plenty of writing awards. But the show actually wasn't super successful until season 4.
Is that when it really started to pick
That's
up
when
as
it
far
really
as
took
success?
off and got into the top 30 on Nielsen ratings. By season 6, it would be number 1, and it would stay in the top few right up until it ended when Larry David leaves after season 7. There would be 2 more very kooky seasons. Jerry Seinfeld more at the helm there. And Jerry walked away from an offer to do the 10th season, as the whole cast decided to walk away from it. He would have been paid $5 million per episode.
Wow.
Which at the time would have been 3 times the highest anyone had even been offered to be a television actor.
Now let's talk about that for a second, because what I remember from when Seinfeld stopped, canceled is the wrong word because they chose to stop, was that it was all Jerry's decision, and maybe there was some disdain from the rest of the cast for it, but I don't get that sense now that I look back on it and you hear the actors talk. They don't seem to be that upset by that.
No, and I think that it, and I read a terrific book called Seinfeldia, and I wish I knew the author's name off the top of my head. I'll have to put that on Twitter or something.
Yeah, we can put it in the notes if nothing else.
Yeah, it's great, but it has a lot of behind-the-scenes information kind of on the year-to-year decision-making and kind of where everyone was at. And it's kind of no surprise, knowing Larry David's famous character, that as the show really ascended to new heights, he essentially was like, all right, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
As it really reached its, I'd say, commercial peak.
Jennifer Cation Armstrong wrote that book.
Okay, yes. Well, fantastic book. Really fun to read. I recommend it to anyone with even a passing interest in Seinfeld. And the thing about this show, it's about nothing. That's, of course, the tagline everyone will say. But it's really entrenched in 90s culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's about something. That's a misnomer. However, it is groundbreaking in that it's not about whatever superficial, fantastical ideas that old sitcoms used to be out. It's about day-to-day normal stuff. You can identify with some of the things they do, at least.
None of it really ever is that important. The stakes are never that high in Seinfeld.
No, it's all about minutia and exploding that minutia into giant plot points anyway. And it's all the better for it. I also really think that it gave an opportunity to see characters that, and other shows have certainly done this since, but a different set of characters. None of these characters are married with families. And they're all single people living in a big city, which is relatable to a lot of people. And I think television, by and large, up to that point, was not targeting that demographic. It was all about the family that you wanted to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Being the primary sitcom setup. So Seinfeld helped. I'm not saying that they were the first to do it, but I think usher in comedies that can allow you to spend time with different sorts of people.
And I'll say this right here. Katie, my girlfriend, and I discussed Seinfeld as a whole and as a pop culture iconography as a whole. And she said that, as a woman, the thing that always stood out to her that was super cool was that Elaine was, and this is the wrong way to say this, just one of the guys.
Mm.
It was never painted that she's a slut because she sleeps with all these guys while Jerry sleeps with a bunch of women and he's, to be championed for it. It was very much Elaine was just another person, and it was never like they had female-centric plots or plots that dealt with female-centric concepts, but it was never negatively thought of or pushed to the side or whatever it may be. So I think it was very important in that regard in seeing in the sitcom land that she wasn't just a housewife.
No.
She wasn't just a hot wife with the ugly husband.
As we actually got to in some of the later episodes that were covered later in the week, she has a very successful career too, like one that goes quite far, maybe a little too far. In the episode I'll be hosting, the power goes to her head a bit, but yeah, she really doesn't seem to be treated in any objectable way. I don't think there's any problem, objectional way, I should say.
No, I think Elaine's a very fleshed out character, and she's handled very well in the series, and the roles performed very well. I also think that kind of along the lines of what you were saying, Van, about Elaine's sexuality not being some sort of problem as it would be in a lot of sitcoms of the era, the show in general is very sex positive. It doesn't shame any of its characters for dating often and not being in long-term relationships or having one-night stands, anything like that.
The other direction on that, though, is that it is all, and I know it doesn't matter, but it is always laughable how successful George and even Jerry are at constantly dating someone. Like, it's just no big deal for them to go on a date with any number of very attractive women constantly, one after the other, with hardly any time in between them.
And messing it up equally as fast.
And not caring at all, because there's just another one waiting for them.
No, they'll just move right back on. There's so many special things about Seinfeld that I wanted to touch on also. Obviously, after its reign of terror on the both really commercially and critically, Seinfeld was named to all sorts of lists. Like, if there's any list about best shows of the 90s or best shows of all time even, especially when it comes to sitcoms, Seinfeld's going to be on it. In 2013, it was also named the second best written television show of all time by the Writers Guild of America.
Oh, that's cool.
To what?
The Sopranos would have been number one, which I have never watched.
I have not either.
I tried. I got like 2 episodes in, but this was like 10 years ago. I will watch it someday, but
I want to.
I worry about shows this old, like, even if they were good.
Yeah, the prestige drama that's a little dated.
I wonder how well it'll hold up. And I also have always wondered that about Seinfeld, because it is so heavily 90s.
Yes.
Sometimes you worry even a well-written show, you don't know if it'll necessarily be as good going back to 20 years later. I still don't know how it's received amongst younger viewers. I certainly still love Seinfeld, but is it going to become a show that like older people like as we age? Or is it going to continue to captivate newer audiences? I've never really known that.
I'm not sure either. Apparently Friends has really captured the mind of Gen Z.
If Friends did, then Seinfeld has to, because Friends is cringe.
Oh, I'm going to say something controversial. We need some Gen Z viewers we can use as punching bags, but mind of Gen Z. Mind? What mind?
Oh.
I'm a millennial. I just have my avocado toast. I'm sorry.
He's let it out. The cat's out of the bag. But yeah, so Seinfeld's very well regarded. It also has a lot of characters and moments, episodes that are very much in the American lexicon now. I think most people are familiar with the contest episode, the episode where all of the main characters have a bet on who can hold out from masturbating longest, which was very groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah, they had to go out of their way not to get censored. They couldn't say very much about what that was because it was not allowed on TV at that time. So yeah, they really pushed the boundaries there.
And honestly, the way that the material is handled feels a lot more, I don't know, like, it feels honest in a way that similar material handled subsequently would not. Not in Seinfeld, but if masturbation is discussed in a show now, it's never it's never in context of sort of how the characters do it in Seinfeld. Like, this is a human need we're all trying to hold out on. It's for a punchline that masturbation exists, so to speak, not the hole that has over people, so to speak. I don't know.
And it became a trope, of sitcoms. Like, everyone remembers the Alf episode where they had the masturbation contest.
And also, I have to say, too, since you're bringing up another show we did, I can't hear the word lexicon anymore without remembering the Saved by the Bell character.
The lexicon.
Yeah, with her long speech in the bathroom about lexicons. Now it's just in my head.
Which is really great.
It is.
Van and Spencer, you guys, we were just talking about the parade of George and Jerry girlfriends. And honestly, that's another thing Seinfeld offered, was a bit of a launching point for a lot of actors, a lot of comedians and actors along the way. Patton Oswalt appeared.
Video store clerk?
As a video store clerk, yeah. Of course, Bryan Cranston had a very big role as Tim Whatley.
Recurring one, yeah.
Which he kills. I mean, he's so good at it.
It's fantastic.
Plenty of the women that appear in the show went on to bigger and better things. Catherine Keener, Terry Hatcher, Courtney Cox, Deborah Messing.
Yeah, who could forget the Courtney Cox episode?
Amanda Peet. Lori Loughlin's in trouble now.
Yeah. Anna Gunn, who was the wife on Breaking Bad.
Lauren
they got
Graham.
half the Breaking Bad crew on there.
That's true.
No Hank at all.
No, RJ Mitty never shows up in this.
Yeah.
Somehow or another. So, yeah.
Bob Odenkirk, he's on there.
Yeah.
Is he really?
He was one of Elaine's girlfriends. He was the one who was supposed to be a doctor, but not quite.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And didn't they also have Luke from Gilmore Girls as well
Yes.
in one episode? Yeah, another Elaine
dating
boyfriend.
Elaine, yes.
Yeah. It's a great, the ancestry of Seinfeld, so to speak.
Pretty incredible, and what a show. Let's just talk about it just for a minute here. I've dispensed of all the facts we need to dispense of.
Okay.
In watching the episodes that we watched, and Van and I talked about this, we both wound up watching a bunch of other Seinfeld episodes because it's fun to do.
Yeah, of course.
The Seinfeld rules. And I was really struck by how well it balances so many things. That it's about minutia and stuff that really can't carry anything, but also frequently very surreal and goofy.
Yes.
And it gets more goofy.
Especially those last two seasons.
Yeah, in
It's
seasons
so
8
silly.
and 9. But I was really struck even in season 5 how just irreverent it can be, on top of handling like something that's as simple as a daily task or something. And I don't know that the show gets the credit for weaving all of that in and out as well as it does, but the boundaries on jokes aren't there. Like, I'm just impressed by the imagination it takes to, on one hand, have something incredibly realistic going on, and then on the next hand, Jerry's worried that there's a ventriloquist dummy that's stalking him in his bed.
Right. Yeah. They also do a good job of blending, and it's not my preferred style of comedy, but the physical comedy is an element too, which Michael Richards is obviously very good at. That's kind of his calling card, is the physical comedy, and Wayne Knight, Newman, can do that pretty well as well. In fact, we see a little bit of both of that in the 3 episodes we covered from those two specifically. So they do the dialogue that it's known for, but they do have other humor approaches as well. So it succeeds on numerous levels comedically.
It's pretty boundless.
Let me jump in here with this concept. I think that you can tell an awful lot about the personality of a person you're speaking to if they're familiar with Seinfeld when you ask them who their favorite character is.
Definitely.
The people out there who immediately are like, Kramer's the best. Those are the people to me that I'm like, okay, you might be able to understand comedy, but you don't quite get the depth of what Seinfeld offers, because to you, it's just the physical bing, bang, boom kind of thing. Whereas if you ask someone, who's your favorite character, and they go, George, without a shadow of a doubt, you're like, okay, you get it.
You could also say Elaine.
Or
too,
Elaine.
Yeah,
sure.
those are the acceptable answers. I'm coming more around on Kramer, but I'm of course very snobby about it, as you just said. Like, I think the things about Kramer that make him really special are actually the smaller.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kramer is great when used properly as a tool. Like, and I don't mean Kramer is a tool. I mean, like, if you use him,
Michael Richards kind of is.
In real life.
That incident was as unfortunate, but we won't get too much into that. But the way he is used, he would get tiresome very quick if you overexpose him, that character. So if you incorporate him properly, he is fantastic. And when I can't think of too many times the show didn't use him just exactly the way they should have. So it worked really well. He's a great character, but you can see that you don't want any more of him than you get.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, the show knows how to balance what it has, which is Jerry is limited in acting abilities. So he is your audience surrogate a lot, but also more aloof than that.
Mm-hmm.
And, that offsets the fact that he's ostensibly successful in the show, because he's also kind of an idiot on top of that to a certain extent. And then everything's, in my opinion, really put on the back of George and Elaine to carry most of the
for sure
range of emotion in their scene.
That's definitely true.
Okay, let me ask this question then. Let's be negative Nellies. What do you think is the problem with Seinfeld? Is there something
What's
that
the
you
deal
can...
with Seinfeld? Didn't you ask that?
I did, yeah.
What do you think is the worst thing of Seinfeld, or what is something you could critique about it?
I do think that and this isn't entirely their fault, but I do think that they should have been more mindful that they're really opening themselves up to some pop culture problems with some of the reference they make. It doesn't age well. And even if you want to really nitpick, the costume design wasn't that great because it looks horrible, like, 15 years later or something. It almost immediately makes them all look like a joke fashion wise. So I don't know that they really put that much into it in terms of this long lasting icon treasure that it could very well be with the quality of writing it had. So I'm not sold that in like another 20 years, it's going to be talked about that much. I don't know that the staying power is what the writing should have had, but I could be wrong. That's just that's a thought that I have, is I don't know how well it'll actually age in the long term.
I wonder about that too, in terms of that perception. I assume no matter what, it has its legacy safe in the way that like I Love Lucy does.
Sure.
Like where it broke a lot of barriers and the writing will always get the credit. And I'm pretty sure the main performances will get some credit. Jason Alexander specifically always seems to pop up on those internet lists of like, hey, what a great job this guy did.
Yeah, good for him.
And he did. So I'm very hopeful of that too. But I know exactly what you're saying in that there's this warm quality of it looking like the 90s to us because we're from the 90s, essentially, that I don't know if anyone else will share that born after the fact. We'll have to find out.
It's almost like if we watch something from the 70s that's very 70s, that's
Although that
how
rules,
I wonder.
but
Well,
yeah.
sure, but that's how we would see it. Some other people might.
You look at it in that lens there, like I see, like it's not necessarily good quality, you just appreciate that quality, like Columbo's that way. It's like hits you over the head with the 70s California vibe. I think it's charming, but I think many people might not. You know, it's like I recognize it for what it is. It
probably is what you think of setting, too, because Seinfeld's also a very... One thing I do think about it is who it's for was not any of us growing up. Because none of us were like urban New York people.
And we were 14.
Yeah, exactly. When it was on, we were barely out of
I really like the New York setting, even though it wasn't shot there. But like the exteriors, you know, some of them were, and I just like the feel of it.
Yeah.
Kind of the interconnected big city feel that it has. The problem, I would say, kind of getting back to if I have to criticize Seinfeld, which
you have to be a negative Nelly.
Hurts to do, but I'll be a negative Nelly just this once. It's getting hot in her. It's a Nelly reference again. We do that a lot on this podcast.
Why not?
More than once is enough.
So, because it is very New York centric, there are a lot of stories that wind up involving immigrants, and they're a little awkward now. You know, Babu and the like.
The Japanese tourists that Kramer spends all their money.
Sleep in the chest of drawers. Yeah,
that's risky.
There are some elements like that, and I haven't actually seen that episode.
I just did yesterday.
Yeah, in a while, but in thinking back on it, I don't think those things were handled very well. I like that the show doesn't hide the fact that New York City has non-whites in it, or even like the street toughs, you know, who I believe are like supposed to be maybe an Italian gay couple.
So.
I was thinking they were like Puerto Rican-ish.
Perhaps Puerto Rican. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Maybe that's just because they were in the Puerto Rican Day Parade episode. That was their second appearance.
Yeah.
Because Kramer wouldn't wear the ribbon.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So there's some questionable handling of a lot of material in that vein, I would say, probably. Yeah, and I won't like make it an excuse because I like Seinfeld, but you know, it's the same thing we've talked about a lot. The time dictated what you could or could not do, and I do think Seinfeld also did some positive things as far as, you know, at least making an effort to present gay characters and to present people of color here and there. And again, that's damning with faint praise, I guess. But
well, that's exactly what I wanted to hit on, is that George is practically a homophobe from very early seasons.
Very early on.
They kind of dial that back a little bit, and they don't necessarily make it out to be this villainous trait. But I watched a handful of episodes that make me cringe because it's like, I'm not gay. Oh, gross.
Are you talking about the
gay.
one where the line is not that there's anything wrong with that, like repeatedly over and over again?
Yes.
There's also the massage episode where he's worried
that it moved.
Yeah.
And like that's a product of the time.
Exactly.
And a product of George is an asshole. His character is an asshole.
Well, and we're not supposed to like any of these characters.
No.
And that's the best trait that this show offers me, is that it's for horrible people that you do like, even though you shouldn't.
Yeah, and the finale, which was much maligned, features all four characters getting jail time for watching a crime being committed. And that, whatever you want to say about the finale, that is their penance for sure. That makes a lot of sense. Just four total turds of human beings. And but God damn it if they aren't funny.
I have one other topic I want to cover, and then I'll cede the floor and we can discuss whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last two seasons, the Larry David-less seasons, which we'll cover 2 episodes of later this week, are maligned often because of how goofy they are. In rewatching a lot of this stuff recently, disagree with that entirely because I love it. I'll get into it in my episode where
yours is like the quintessential post Larry David episode.
Yes.
They give traits to the characters that make no sense but are hilarious. In my example, it's Kramer's a working businessman who doesn't have time for his wife, who's Jerry. And Jerry's always like, we never talk anymore. You get home from, you're tired, blah, blah, blah. That's so absurd. But I love the way they present it, that they put these traits onto those characters. So I think maybe at the time it was simply because people preferred the grounded in reality of the first 7 seasons or whatever. I think now looking back at it, I wonder if people would have the same complaints or not.
I think they would at least be dampened, because I had that stigma in my mind, and in watching these season 8 episodes and a few more, I loved them. And I don't think there's really much of a quality drop off. I think it's more of a change in approach. As you said, Van, I think things get more surreal and more wacky. So, but like I said, they were always there, the wacky elements. So
Definitely.
I think it's just ratcheting that up at the expense of maybe the Larry David playwright quality of plotting, I guess.
Well, and you take some of the stuff that has happened throughout the many seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm now, and it's clear Larry David does not shy away from surreal, ridiculous stuff on his own either. He does. In fact, I've actually watched a few of this current season, and I can't wait
to do that.
It's honestly just like there's not really anything serious that's happening at all. Like it's all just outlandish, So Larry David does a lot of that too, and they do make sure to, I guess, kind of pay some respects and tributes to the imprint that Larry David left in the show. Like they have a specific part when your episode, Van, George takes him to a building just for a bathroom. That's a Larry David trait.
It is.
So they continue to incorporate these things that Larry David did.
Best bathroom in Midtown.
He knows.
So, yeah, he would know. Yeah, so they continue to do that. There's a good overlapping of how Jerry and Larry work together.
That's also later, of course, used in Curb Your Enthusiasm as George develops the iToilet app.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I think that they both could do what they're primarily known for doing, and there was a little bit of both, and then without the other, maybe it does take on a different tone, but not so much that you don't recognize the product.
And I think there's some, if a show's going to run for 9 years, you can't do the same thing the whole time.
You have to almost reinvent yourself a little.
Yeah, and I think we're helped also because while most of the cast is terrific from, day one, with Jerry Seinfeld himself, he is markedly improved about midway through the show's run on. And I think that gives him more ground to stand on once Larry David's gone, because he is no longer as much a liability as an actor either. So there are things that are better about the show later also.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question then. Curb or Seinfeld?
This is a really tough one.
It's hard because I haven't seen enough Seinfelds recently. I've seen Curb Your Enthusiasms far more recently, but that's also been going on for years, and he takes years off between seasons. So I would have a hard time making that call without watching bunches of them and then comparing directly. I would probably be more inclined to go Seinfeld for the supporting cast. Curb Your Enthusiasm is very good for Larry David's bullshit, but they have the regular cast. I don't like, Jeff, for instance, in Curb Your Enthusiasm nearly as much as I like any of the secondary Seinfeld characters.
That's a really good point. And I think the ensemble direction of Seinfeld does make it probably my choice also.
And I do love Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah. I think Curb Your Enthusiasm is exactly what you would want out of a Seinfeld made for HBO.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
With more emphasis on improv elements,
what they do in that show, that it becomes more and more noticeable. I didn't come up with this idea by any means. Someone's been complaining. I've seen people complain about this forever, but it's more noticeable now. And that's that this is all rich person problems for Larry David in particular, because he's just himself.
And they're leaning into that more.
Yeah, and they absolutely do. So everything he's going through is ridiculous. It's not an issue at all. It's like everything he's getting upset about in Curb Your Enthusiasm is, wow, that's not a problem, Larry.
There's I heard it described as Curb Your Enthusiasm described as L.A. Portlandia to some degree of almost mocking L.A. celebrity culture to a degree.
And in Seinfeld, they're none of them are presented to be, in Jerry's case, as successful as he actually was. So, and not that they're struggling, but they're a little more relatable. Whereas these are country club people in Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's people that you've never known anyone like.
Yeah, the problem is in my backyard, I can see a wire.
Right, stuff like that.
So I'm going to buy a whole new house.
So, Van, where are you on that?
Here's my answer to it, and this is the worst answer you can come up with.
You're going to say Friends, aren't you?
No, I am not. Whatever I'm watching. If I'm watching
Yeah,
Curb,
that's fair.
Curb is my favorite right at the moment. If I'm watching
I
Seinfeld,
think that would
Seinfeld.
happen if I were to try this out and watch a bunch of each. And like I said, I need to do. I could see myself doing that, changing my mind and being like, I don't know. It's a tough
I
question.
was definitely ready when I first started watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was 4 or 5 seasons in, and I binged them all. And at that point, if you would have asked me,
You might, yeah.
I would have said Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, sure.
But having watched a lot of Seinfeld over the past couple of weeks for this show and recreational time, I'm going to say Seinfeld today.
I think what we just said speaks to the volumes of how amazing both shows are.
Yeah, 20
Ultimately.
seasons of this. Wow.
So, well, and that's it. You mentioned earlier 9 seasons of Seinfeld. Sometimes you have to reinvent yourself a little bit. Can you think of any other shows that are 9 seasons long where you can go, every season was gold? Maybe seasons 1 and 2 of Seinfeld were a little less great, but they were still very good.
Yeah, this is something that definitely came to mind while researching stuff for these episodes. And no, at least off the top of my head, I can't think of anything like
Certainly
this.
not for a comedy.
No, because they get The Office was probably 9 seasons, right?
That's fair. And I'd say,
And
what,
it is
5
rough.
of them were great?
Yeah,
and
and
the
it is
rest
rough
were pretty
after
bad.
5.
Mm-hmm.
If you put together the first 2/3 of The Office and then conjoined it and said it was also part of Parks and Rec, then you could say they accomplished what Seinfeld and Curb did together. And that's all. Actually, you got to give Larry David more credit as a creator because he did so much of Seinfeld and then an entire other show
That's very
that
true.
Jerry wasn't involved in. So in terms of creating the product, Larry David does deserve more credit than Jerry in that case, even if I don't necessarily like the show more.
You could say the first 9 seasons of The Simpsons, right?
Sure.
But that's also a different thing. And I'm not trying to diminish that accomplishment, but it's got to be difficult to get an entire cast and
I also
set.
like the concept of tethering it to the show that kind of is not a spinoff in Curb's case, but something like that. Like the only thing I can think that a really good show and then a show that was kind of built around it or in a similar premise is like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Oh yeah,
but that's drama,
those.
of course. So it's an interesting theory that kind of one mind or largely one group of minds created 2 products so good and just kind of almost back to back.
Larry David is kind of incredible.
Comedic genius.
But what do we know about Larry David or Jerry Seinfeld or about the show Seinfeld? Well, we're about to find out.
Gonna jump right in.
Yeah, because contributor to this show and friend of the show, AKJ519, has submitted a little quiz to the 3 of us to see if we even know what the fuck we're talking about when it comes to Seinfeld.
It's going to reveal us as frauds.
Amanda K. Johnson / Mandy
I wasn't
Vaughn.
sure if we weren't allowed to say the name. We're going to go by the
she
moniker,
doesn't care.
AKJ.
Yeah, they're
Slash
doing that the whole
sister.
time like she's some sort of like hacker or something.
I can picture her as Speed Woman. What was her name?
Mr. Robot.
Sandra Bullock
Woman.
in The Net. Like,
Yeah,
that's
the
your
Net. I
sister.
think she was the Net in that movie.
She
Sandra
was
Bullock
the Net,
was.
yes. So I asked her last night before we were recording, last minute idea. She has a Seinfeld trivia game. Give us some questions. I have the questions. I have not read any of the questions. I have not read the answers. We're going to see if the 3 of us
So
can
we're
do
going to
them.
see how well we do, guys.
All
Let's
right.
let's do this. We can work together.
I feel a little nervous, so I just want to throw this out there. It has been a while since I've seen a bunch of these.
Okay.
Doesn't
yeah.
mean I'm a fraud.
Yeah. This usually
Get that
doesn't
out there.
happen. I swear.
It's never happened to me. All right, so number 1 question. For what appliance store has Jerry been hired to do TV spots for? I have no idea.
No, I have no clue.
Ryan?
Wow, I don't know either.
I
Let's think about this.
don't even know what episode that would have
Yeah,
been.
I don't know.
Okay, so The Wiz, right? Is that?
Well, Jerry didn't have anything to do with it because I just watched The Wiz.
I haven't watched The Wiz in a long
The
time.
Yeah,
Wiz
that was
were-
Elaine's dorky boyfriend.
Mhm.
Nah, that's.
And it was an old commercial from like 10 years prior in the episode who then they brought the character back. So
That-
that didn't have him. So I
I
don't
do
know.
love that line at the end where
Nobody beats me.
Yeah, where somebody makes fun of Elaine and she's like, he's the Wiz and nobody beats him. Because she knows she's made a mistake to date him, but she tries to stand up for him with that line.
So I guess we don't know. And all right,
We don't know.
Let's reveal
0
it.
for 1.
Let's see. Leapin' Larry's appliance
God,
store.
yeah, we should have gotten.
I don't
that.
remember. What episode was this?
I don't remember, but I remember
Leapin'
Leapin' Larry
Larry's,
for
huh.
obvious reasons. That
Huh.
name.
Yeah.
All right. Well, 0 for 1.
If they're all
Okay.
that hard, we're not going to get any of
No.
these.
We're batting 0 so far. All right. So number 2, let's see here. What's the first kind of soup that Jerry orders from the soup Nazi?
Oh. All I really
Ooh.
know is
Medium crab bisque.
That's crab bisque is what came
that's
to my
really
mind.
the only thing I can think of from that is the bisque. Yeah.
yeah, and
Isn't that Elaine though that likes that?
yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't recall. So crab bisque, I guess,
That
is our
we're-
answer.
yeah, we-
I know that Elaine's yada 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 speech involves bisque. She
Okay.
likes bisque. And she says, oh, you yada yada the best part. No, I mentioned the bisque. That was the joke in that scene.
Well, let's
We don't
find out.
know.
What's the first kind? Crab bisque.
Yeah.
We got it. See?
Although we weren't confident, so we lose half a point. I'm
Everybody
just
loves
making
that
this up.
bisque.
We farted our way into
Well,
that
we
answer.
tried to fuck it up with our lack of confidence.
I don't like it when people don't answer assertively.
Ooh, this is a Bookman question.
Oh, you should
Okay.
get this one.
All right.
The New York Public Library says Jerry has an overdue book by author Henry Miller from 1971. What book is it?
Tropic of Cancer? Or
Is
Yeah.
it
Capricorn?
Capricorn or Cancer?
Either
That's
way,
the-
we're getting credit for this.
I think
That's
it's
the-
Cancer.
Yeah.
George, I think, says it's the other one or something. But
But either way,
Yeah.
I don't remember which one it is.
We're getting this
It's
point.
one of the two.
All right, let's see here. The Tropic of Cancer.
Yeah.
We got
Yay.
it. All right, so let's go on to number 4.
PPs and wee-wees.
So we're what, 2 for 3? Not too shabby.
Yeah. Really good for baseball.
Kramer's in search of a certain flavor of ices for Bette Midler. What flavor is it? I don't remember.
I remember that
this.
episode very clearly, but I don't remember that.
I just remember George plowing over Bette Midler in the softball game, right?
Was it-
Raquel Welch, I think,
Oh, that
is the
was
softball game.
No, it's Bette Midler.
No,
Is it?
Midler is
It's
in that
Bette
one.
Midler.
Yeah.
Man, I'm off.
It's Anyway, flavor of ice.
Yeah, I don't have a
I don't
clue.
recall. That's a tough one.
These
Okay.
really hyper specific ones, I don't know.
Pineapple. So-
Okay.
Yeah, I
There
would
you go.
have.
2 for 4. So
We could have made it up. Could have
betting
just guessed
500.
pineapple.
We
Mhm.
could have. So
I
we're
feel
either-
bad now too because Mandy was like, "Oh, these are easy."
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right, number 5 here. Kramer takes a group of tourists through Central Park in the hansom cab. What baseball player does he say designed the park in 1850? Honus Wagner?
Is it? I think it might be.
It was an older player like that. I remember that, or no, it was a more recent one
And he
because it was absurd that it was 1850.
I don't know. When you said Honus Wagner, now I think it's Honus Wagner for some reason,
Maybe
but I
it was
don't.
Honus Wagner, but I don't know. Brian, any guesses?
I don't know. So yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
I'm
man.
fine with Honus Wagner. Yogi Berra.
We might be under 500. It'd be a Yankee too.
That's the
That's a
thing,
good
and Honus
point.
Wagner never was.
No,
He was a pirate.
Joe DiMaggio. No, that's the Dinky's Donuts. But all right, let's find out here. Handsome Cab. It was Joe Pepitone.
Ah,
Of course.
Yeah, I didn't know that one. So all right, so we're 2 for 5.
okay,
See if we
not
can-
good.
Rates
Redeem
dropping.
ourselves. Kramer tells Jerry that you can't eat a sandwich without this. Mustard.
Maybe? Okay. Kramer tells Jerry this?
Kramer tells Jerry that you can't eat a sandwich without this. I think it's mustard. Because I remember when I was a kid and
It would
I heard this
almost
line,
have
I was
to
like,
be.
no way.
I have no idea.
No guess?
No.
Spencer?
No.
Nothing. I'm going to say mustard. Let's see here. Dijon mustard. So
Well,
Okay,
we get
close
that.
points enough.
We get that.
So there we go, 3 for 6. We're back at 500. Jerry tells his Uncle Leo, I'm assuming,
Mhm.
that he can't have dinner with him, but he doesn't tell him the real reason. It's so he can see the worst movie ever made. What is it?
Is it Schindler's List?
Plan 9
Because-
from outer space.
Because he gets caught making out there, and that's what blows his cover or whatever, to where he has to admit that he was just like I don't know.
Maybe. I'm inclined to say
I'm
Plan 9.
getting I think I'm getting two different
Maybe.
episodes mixed up.
I'll vote Plan 9, so we'll go with Brian's
It's not
answer then.
Channel, unfortunately, or Sack Lunch.
Sack Lunch is what I was going to bring up. Yeah, okay, let's see here. Worst movie ever made, Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yeah,
So we're at 4 for 7.
Yeah,
Not too shabby. Let's see here. I have a couple more.
I've seen worse, like us 2 questions ago.
Ooh, I just watched this episode, but I don't remember the answer off the top. What does Jerry tell George the opposite of tuna is?
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
Let me think briefly about this. Because he was like, it was the opposite. I'm going to do the opposite of what George always do, or what I always do.
Oh,
And so if I order tuna,
Chicken
I'm going to
salad.
order, I think it's,
Oh, that
does he say chicken salad or does Jerry tell him that?
no, I think George
because he usually gets tuna
George
on
does
toast,
it.
chicken salad on
On
rye.
rye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
Okay.
I was thinking.
Let's
George
go.
does it all,
Chicken salad on rye. Let's go with that.
and then a cup of tea or something. I think is
Oh.
what he throws in at the end.
We got it wrong. Jerry tells George
Oh,
it's salmon because they swim against the current.
Okay, see, I was thinking of what George said, so I was jumping ahead
Oh,
in the
okay.
question, so my fault on that one.
That's all right. Well, we wouldn't have got it anyway. 4 for 8. We're still at 500. Jerry tells Juliana that this would be the worst part of being blind. Ooh, I don't know this one at all. I don't think.
It's like kind of ringing a bell, but not enough to where I'm going to be able to get a concrete answer.
Yeah, I don't have any idea.
Is it like when you say it, I'm gonna remember it.
Yeah, that's going to be one of those for sure. No guesses for
Nah.
me.
No.
All right.
It's just too fuzzy.
not being able to tell if there were bugs in his food, which
Okay,
is
that-
very Jerry.
I
thing,
did not
so,
remember that.
yeah.
No, that's not even ringing a bell.
Let's see here. Jerry bought a new couch. What does he say is the best thing about it?
The urine
No
that
pee
becomes
stain,
on it.
right? Well, I think that's it. He's like, there's no pee stains. That's the best part. Because that's when he buys it.
I mean, I don't know, so I'm willing to go with that.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. It doesn't fold out, so no one can sleep on it.
I was wondering if it was a Kramer like related thing, possibly.
It could be, yeah. All right, well, we missed that. We're what, 4 for 9?
4 for 9.
That's okay. Still reasonable.
Could be worse.
What toy did Sister Roberta give Kramer when he came to pick up George from his meeting at the church? This is the Latvian Orthodox episode, I think.
Where
Does he
Kramer
try to convert
turns her.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he ends up not like smells like
Is it
garlic
a
or
Rubik's
something.
Cube or something?
That sounds fairly right.
I don't even
I'm
know,
not
though.
sure.
At this point, I'm realizing how little Seinfeld I've watched in
A
while.
15 years.
Yeah, these little details, you'd have to have
Yeah.
seen it recently.
Well, let's go with Rubik's Cube. Let's see here. It is a Slinky. So
I knew
you
it
were
was
on
an
the right
80s
track.
toy.
Yeah, definitely. All right, this is the last question we have here, and we are currently 4 for 10.
Yeah, there's no saving us.
Let's get this one right at all costs, even if we have to Google it.
Kramer spots this actor in a restaurant in Hollywood and gives him a copy of his movie treatment.
Well,
I don't remember this.
it's not John Voight.
No, because he bites him.
Yes. What guest? I'm trying to think famous guest
Is this when
actors.
Kramer's in Hollywood and gets accused of murder? Like that
when
double episode?
When he leaves for a while. Oh, I could see that. That's true, because he's trying to break into the industry at that
Yeah,
time.
doesn't he
That's
get
like
a
why
spot
he's
on like
there.
Murphy Brown or something?
Yes, he does,
Is
because
that when
that
he
was
has
a
the line,
recurring
these
gag on
pretzels
it.
are making me thirsty?
No, it's a different one.
That's the auditioning to be Kramer.
Yes.
For
For the
Jerry.
pilot. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
have
know.
a guess.
No clue.
No
No
okay.
idea.
Let's find out. It is Fred Savage.
Oh, I would
Wow.
never have gotten that.
Forgot about that one. So
The Wonder Year himself.
we did not do that well.
No.
Wow.
I didn't-
We don't know
kinda
anything
didn't
about
think-
Seinfeld.
I didn't think we would do that well, to be honest.
That's okay. Pat ourselves on the back for
Yeah.
getting a couple, right?
Good enough. Good enough. Well, that sucks. So let's for a positive thing. Do you guys have any We've all watched Seinfeld since being children.
Since birth.
Yeah. Do we have any? Anybody have any stories? Any youthful memories of Seinfeld watching?
I watched the finale as it happened. I didn't.
yeah.
There's not too many TV shows that I've gotten to do that.
Yeah.
I had
Same
fully
here.
immersed myself into it by that point because I saw it on TV before I actually was going to watch it. It was on in my house, but it was I'm not going to do that. And then it started hooking me in. I was probably still 13 or so. But eventually I got to the point where I was like, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. I was watching the reruns and able to watch the new ones, which is exciting.
yeah.
I can't think of too many other shows that you get that whole, today's the big finale day and you get to watch it live. That just doesn't really happen that much now.
I do recall watching, when I started watching it as it was happening, was season 8, because I remember very fondly having memories of the season 8 episodes. In particular, I have a memory of the episode where Frank, it's revealed that he was a cook in the Korean War, and
I love that
Kramer
one.
has the Jewish singles night, and he has to cook food for 180 people.
And he gets you see the flashback of him as the same age.
He's
I
exactly
love
the
that.
same.
They didn't
yes.
even try.
That's great. So I remember
Gets-
that.
Gets sick in slow mo.
Mhm.
And this is another show we did with Jerry Stiller in it that we didn't get any Jerry Stiller in
I
the
know,
episode.
that is a shame.
What a shame.
Because Jerry's still
Hilarious
man.
guy.
So
What-
great.
So awesome. Yeah, similar to you guys. It was a show I watched with my mom and sister from a really young age, and we all loved it. Even the stuff, and that's a weird thing too. Watching Seinfeld as a kid, I thought it was hilarious.
It's
And
weird that
which is
there's like
strange.
8 more layers to it watching it as an adult.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so I just have a lot of positive feelings toward it in general, and it's still something that I can laugh about with my mom, who's obviously 30 years older than me, my sister, my brother, anytime. And there's something, and you guys, there's something about Seinfeld like that's really special.
I had to watch it by myself because my mom could not handle it. Much like I'm
Well,
learning.
Briscoe County Jr. is not in Seinfeld.
Well, see,
Or Jeff Gordon or Taylor Earnhardt.
I'm learning that maybe I am a lot like my mom because there are things that I know I can't do or watch because I won't be able to handle it. I'll get so upset and annoyed. Hers was Seinfeld. She couldn't stand Elaine's "get out," the pushing. She was like,
I love
it just
that.
annoyed the shit out of me. So I had to watch Seinfeld by myself. Which
You
is
should
fun.
have showed her the Bizarro episode because that's what Elaine's undoing in that
Mhm.
episode.
That's right.
Poor Kevin.
Spoiler alert, Spencer.
But yeah, we're going to be getting to that episode with a bizarro version of all of our beloved characters, but not just yet. On our next episode, we'll be getting around to Season 5, Episode 4. That's the Marine Biologist. And we'll be here with that later this week. You can find this here show, Boob Tube Boys, on Instagram or on Twitter at Boob Tube Boys. You can find me on Twitter at Loud Guitar Brian. Van, what are you on there?
I am at Manly Van Lee.
Spencer, you're at Spencer Hendricks. You said you're changing
Straight up Spencer Hendricks. No, I'm at the number 3 French _ hen. And I just want to clarify, I laughed when you led with Instagram there is why I was laughing, because it made it seem like we have we specialize in Instagram.
Yeah, we're big
Find
grammars.
us on there.
I was going alphabetically.
It was the first
thing I said.
It threw me off there. I was like, oh, we're leading with Instagram now. We better get busy on that. In our YouTube, let's get going on that.
See, I thought you were just being rude to Brian. You're like, haha, you said something, you idiot.
Piece of shit.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like it reflected poorly on him. It was just.
It
made me laugh that it was like.
This is not going to reflect positively.
We're largely Instagram based.
Positively on me come raise time. Speaking of money, like raises, if you'd like to give us some, go to patreon.com/boo2inc or search for us on the Patreon app. For as little as $2 a month, you're going to get a bonus episode from us every week. And they're a little more relaxed, if you can believe that, and off the rails. So I think you'll greatly enjoy those episodes if you like what we do. Until next time. And next time is very soon, because this is official Seinfeld week.
Yeah, we're going to be hitting you hard with episodes all week.
Yeah. Until next time, yada, yada, yada.